So, here we are, making the long walk along to Slains Castle. An imposing ruin said to be the inspiration for Bram Stoker when he wrote the story of Dracula. But no, this isn't Transylvania, as you might think. We're on the northeast coast of Scotland. Hold on, I'll bring up the map. So here's modern day Aberdeen. 37 kilometres north of here is Cruden Bay, and Slains Castle sits on the coast just at the north point of the bay. We're going to head along and check out this remarkable ruin and learn some of the history of the castle and its connection to Dracula. But wait, the story doesn't start here at all. On the old map it actually says New Slains Castle, and to understand the history of this place we need to travel 10 kilometres south to the first Slains Castle, located here near the Mains of Slains, on a rock sticking out into the North Sea. So let's go and check that out first. The original Slains Castle was built in the 13th century as a fortress castle by the 3rd Earl of Buchanan, John Comyn. He was a bit of a rebel and eventually was forced to flee to England after battles against Robert the Bruce. Old Slains Castle was therefore forfeited in the 14th century, and Bruce gave it to Sir Gilbert Hay, the 5th feudal baron of Errol. It stayed in ownership of the Earl of Errol through to the 9th Earl, Francis Hay. But he took part in a Catholic rebellion in the north of Scotland against King James VI. It culminated in the Battle of Glenlivet in 1594 when James prevailed and the rebellion collapsed. And King James was a bit miffed about this, so he decided to inflict some good old revenge by destroying some of the rebels' castles. At the King's request, Aberdeen Council, in an unusually efficient manner, sent some men in October 1594 to demolish Huntly Castle as well as Slains Castle. They didn't seem to do such a great job of destroying Huntly Castle, but at Slains Castle they set gunpowder and cannon and did a pretty good job of it. Today there's only a small part of the castle remaining, and when we visited, these two random cannons just lying around. Could these be the actual cannons that we used upon the castle? We're not sure. However, historic records do tell us that Francis made a hasty exit into hiding in Denmark in 1595, but his wife, Elizabeth Douglas, stayed in the area. She was probably safe enough because she was friends with Anne of Denmark, who happened to be the king's wife. However, with the castle in ruin, Elizabeth had to take a more humble abode in the form of the farmhouse of Clochtow, which actually still remains as a working farm to this day. Francis secretly returned to Scotland in 1596, and this is where we can jump back to the site of New Slains Castle. So let's go back there. Okay, we're heading towards the castle now, so I'll tell you a bit more. Francis was back in Scotland and decided that Catholicism wasn't for him, and in 1597 renounced his faith and managed to gain favour with the king, and that got him off the hook for his rebellion. Nice one. But he probably got a bit of an earful from his abandoned wife Elizabeth when he got back, and by around 1600 he had a courtyard and a square tower built on the present site of Slains Castle that they both then lived in. He called this Bowness, after the double rock arch at the north end of the peninsula. It stayed in the hands of the Earl of Errol, and it was extended over the years, the first significant one being in 1664 when it was extended and renamed New Slains Castle. By the 1900s, the then 20th Earl of Errol, Charles Hay, was only an occasional visitor to the castle, and it was being rented out as a high-class summer holiday residence. Some notable visitors included Baden-Powell, Prime Minister Asquith, and during the time Asquith rented the castle, he invited Winston Churchill to join him there for a couple of nights. But in 1916 the castle was sold by Charles after he had become impoverished, mostly due to taxation. Isn't that always the way? This ended more than 300 years of ownership by the family, and the castle then was bought and sold a few times before it eventually fell into ruin. But what about it being Dracula's castle? Well, this may be true, or just a legend. What is true is that Dracula's author, Bram Stoker, did stay in nearby Cruden Bay regularly, and the castle does get mentioned in 2 of his books, The Mystery of the Sea and The Water's Mouth. It's possible too that the castle may have provided the inspiration for Killian Castle in his book The Jewel of the Seven Stars, but of course we want to know if this was inspiration for Dracula's castle. Well, maybe or maybe not. The earliest notes for the Dracula story dates back to 1890, which was 2 years before Bram was even in this area. However, it is feasible that Newslane's castle did provide some inspiration for the castle in the Dracula book. He started to write the book for real when he was in Cruden Bay in 1895. And also there is a distinctive room in Newslane's castle, the Octagonal Hall, which may actually be the source for the octagonal room in Dracula's castle. Not conclusive evidence, but I believe it's safe to say that Newslane's castle certainly provided some inspiration for Stoker's most famous book, and there's no denying that a visit to Newslane's castle will certainly be a memorable one for you. We certainly had a great time when we visited the castle. It was really interesting. Thanks for coming along with us today on our visit to both Newslane's castle and Old Slane's castle. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.